What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Now, we're definitely in some exciting times whenever it comes to technology. Yesterday, Apple just dropped some brand new iPhones, and that's all good and well. But the topic of this video is going to be about the latest phone from Google, and that is the new Pixel 5. So our friends from Google sent us a brand new Pixel 5 along with some other goodies, and I've been fortunate to be using it as my Android daily driver for quite a few days now. And I gotta say, the Pixel 5 has thoroughly exceeded my expectations of what I thought a mid-range device could actually be. Now, the keyword in that last sentence was mid-range. Historically speaking, Google's Pixel devices have always attempted to compete with other top-tier flagship phones. But it always seemed like with each new iteration of the Pixel, there was something that prevented the phone from feeling complete, or something that just shouldn't have been wrong, but it was. So with the Pixel 1, the phone used somewhat of an outdated design. With the Pixel 2, the XL model launched with display issues. With the Pixel 3, it had somewhat underpowered hardware. It was a little short on the RAM side, and that led to some performance problems throughout the life of the phone. And with the Pixel 4, it implemented a Soli sensor that seemed a bit premature and a little gimmicky at time of launch, although I will say that 1 year later, the Soli sensor and sophisticated face unlock on Pixel 4 is awesome. Now, fast forward to the Pixel 5, Google decided to take a different approach this year and just try to implement what they felt were the most complete core experiences of a smartphone and best features, and launch the phone at the most affordable price that they possibly could given its feature set. So when I first started using the Pixel 5, the first thing that I noticed was its really small form factor. Compared to my Pixel 4 XL from last year, this phone is significantly smaller. But you know what's awesome? It actually features a 6-inch display in that small form factor. Now, the display itself comes in at 1080p resolution with a 90 Hz refresh rate, and it's OLED, so that's great to see. Now, the awesome part about this display is it features uniform bezels around each edge, and it comes with a hole punch cutout style similar to what we saw on the Pixel 4a. Now, here's the interesting part. Normally, whenever you manufacture a device that you want to have even bezels around each corner and edge of the display, you may have some trouble doing that if you want to implement a top speaker or earpiece combo, which it's a phone, you definitely want to do that. Well, Google got around that issue by implementing an under-display speaker and earpiece combo system. So yeah, the phone comes with a dual speaker setup, but one of them actually sits under the display. In terms of actual quality of the display itself, for a 1080p OLED panel, it's actually really, really nice. And it took me looking up the overall specs of the phone to notice that it wasn't Quad HD in terms of quality. It gets plenty bright, and color reproduction on it is excellent. So while Google made the correct compromises, it still leads to an awesome display experience. Now, for the body of the phone, Google decided to stick with the unibody design that they implemented on the Pixel 4a. Although this time around, instead of using plastic, they opted for a textured aluminum. Now, like I said, the aluminum itself is textured and it feels awesome. It's kind of got this like really matte, fine sandpaper finish to it. It's grippy, it feels really nice in the hand, and it's one of those build features that you'll find yourself rubbing the back of the phone throughout the day because it actually feels so nice in the hand. Now, another thing you'll notice when you look at the back of the phone is everyone's favorite authentication method for Pixel is back, and that's the rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. It's fast and it's super reliable. So I was actually really happy to see that one come back. Now, the phone is also IP68 water and dust resistance rated, which is really nice to see on a mid-range phone. And here's the real kicker. Normally on a phone that's built out of aluminum, you don't have features like wireless charging because wireless charging through an aluminum frame is not possible. But Google managed to find a way around that too, thanks to, again, some clever engineering. Here's how they did it. They started with a base layer of aluminum, and they cut a hole in that base layer of aluminum, and they fit the wireless charging coil inside that hole. Now, to add some rigidity to the overall build and to add to that unibody feel, they then covered that with a thin layer of plastic. So the phone maintains an aluminum build while also having wireless charging and reverse wireless charging now that Google is calling battery share. This is creativeness and build quality that is really awesome to see. So while you do have a different material that's not as expensive as glass, you don't compromise on things like wireless charging. And of course, this is a Pixel. So whenever it comes to software, you know you're going to get Google's version of Android that's going to include timely monthly security patch updates. And anytime there's a new major version of Android coming out, you know you're going to be first in line to receive that update as soon as it drops. Now, every time a new Pixel phone comes out and I use that phone for a certain period of time, I'm always reminded about how much I enjoy Google's version of Android. But it's not necessarily the operating system as a whole. It's some of the smaller features that Google implements that you just don't find on other phones that lead to an awesome experience. Like I said, there are a lot of other companies. OnePlus comes to mind whenever it comes to awesome versions of Android. But Google's is up there mainly thanks to those small features that you just don't find on any other phone. So overall, the Pixel experience is here. It's still excellent, and you're going to enjoy it if you like clean takes of Android. Now, I'm sure some of you that want to buy a Pixel 5 may be a little worried about the processor that Google chose this year around. So as opposed to featuring what is typically the top of the line processor from Qualcomm every year, Google decided to go with the Snapdragon 765G instead of the 865 that we've seen on all the flagship phones for 2020. So here's the interesting part about the 765G. For general day-to-day performance, which is what the majority of people who buy this phone are going to use it for, you're not going to notice a performance difference over the 865. Now, you will notice a small dip in performance if you decide to do things like super intensive 3D gaming on the device or anything that will require that extra horsepower that comes with the Snapdragon 865. But overall, the 765G processor paired to 8 gigs of RAM that you'll find on the Pixel 5 leads to excellent day-to-day performance, and it's a little easier on the battery life. Now, as you're probably well aware, the 765G is a cheaper overall chipset than the 865, so that allows Google to cut costs of the phone, while still enabling the Pixel 5 to be 5G ready whenever that ends up hitting a lot more consumers. So I understand the reason why they opted out of the 865. Just know that from a performance standpoint, you're really not going to notice a difference, and the phone feels super fluid all of the time. Speaking of battery, I think Google listened to a lot of the criticisms that came with last year's Pixel 4, because while this year's Pixel 5 maintains a form factor similar to last year's Pixel 4, it doesn't feature the abysmally small battery that was found on the Pixel 4. This year around, Google managed to fit a 4080 milliamp hour battery into the Pixel 5, and paired to a more battery-friendly chipset, it leads to all-day battery life. Thank you, Google. You can finally take the phone off charge in the morning, use it as you normally would throughout the day, and end the day with, generally speaking, a good amount of battery life to spare. Now keep in mind that it does feature somewhat faster charging whenever you plug it in through USB-C, and it does feature a little bit faster wireless charging compared to last year's Pixel 4. But I think the big story here is that on a phone that is as small as last year's Pixel 4, you can finally use it, 90 Hertz display and all, great performance and all, nice display and all, and get to the end of the day without having to plug it in. So thank you, Google, for listening to people on that one. And of course, no Pixel experience would be complete without that iconic Pixel camera. Now, Google is really holding on to the word iconic because they are using the same wide-angle lens as the one found on the Pixel 4, like down to every single specification. It's the same 12.2 megapixel wide-angle sensor. The difference in this year's camera system is they swapped out the 16 megapixel telephoto that was found on the 4 for a 16 megapixel ultra-wide angle now on the 5. Now, if you've used the Pixel before or even used the Pixel 4, then you'll be familiar with the quality of images that this phone can reproduce. The Pixel line has always been excellent whenever it comes to still photography. Now, a first on a Google Pixel phone that you'll find on the 5 is the ability to record in 4K at 30 and 60 frames. That one, like I said, is new to the Pixel 5. Now, in terms of overall camera performance, the phone performs well. I feel like Google hasn't really put in too much innovation to the actual camera hardware. They've always had a super strong focus on computational photography and AI to produce excellent results, and the Pixel 5 is no different. It produces excellent still images. I'm not sure if it's as class-leading as it was 1 or 2 years ago, but that's not saying much. That's more so a compliment to other phones' evolving camera systems than it would be a knock to the Pixel's camera. It's still excellent for still photography, and you will generally be really happy with the quality of images produced on the Pixel 5. So that's it. That's the Google Pixel 5. Now, Google is keeping the Pixel 5 lineup relatively simple in terms of colors, storage variations, and things of that sort. So the Pixel 5 is available in 2 colors, just black and sage, which is the one that you've seen in this video. It looks super dope, by the way, if you're interested in that color. And it's only available in 1 storage configuration, 128 gigabytes, which is, I'd say, a relatively happy medium for a lot of people, considering Google wants you to use their cloud-based photo and video storage system, and they want you to use a lot of their cloud-based services. Now, at $699, which is the cost of the phone, I would say it checks off a lot of boxes for what a large amount of people are going to be looking for in a phone that's competing in the mid-range segment. Now, I will say this, I am unsure if this is going to be a permanent rebranding of the Pixel line. Like, I'm hoping Google does decide maybe next year with the Pixel 6 to go back to competing in the premium flagship market and have the budget options like the 4A and even some mid-range options like the 5 to build a more comprehensive lineup based on people's budgetary needs. But overall, I gotta say the Pixel 5 feels like one of the most complete smartphones that Google has essentially ever released. At its price point, it does a lot of things good, and I feel like the compromises that Google made to keep the price a little bit lower were the correct decisions to make for this particular smartphone. Now, you let me know in the comment section down below, do you think Google is just going to stick to the upper mid-range market moving forward, or do you think they will venture back into premium smartphone market? If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure you hit like and subscribe down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.